So you tune in, maybe you're catching up on the news, and this headline just jumps out. The Jones Road wildfire in New Jersey. It's quite something. A real reminder of, nature's power. For this deep dive, we've looked at the initial reports coming out from FOX5 New York, Eyewitness News, ABC7 NY, and also 6ABC Philadelphia. Our mission here is really to get past those breaking news flashes and try to understand the immediate impact, the factors behind why this thing grew so fast.
Yeah, what really strikes you immediately from all these reports is just the sheer speed. How what started as a brush fire became such a major incident so incredibly quickly. It really underscores how fast conditions can shift and, well, the kind of impact that can have on communities right away.
Okay, so let's start where it kicked off. All the sources agree it began as a brush fire. Location was the Greenwood Forest Wildlife Management Area that covers parts of Ocean and Barnegat townships. But the escalation, wow, ABC7NY, they first said maybe 150 acres burning.
Right, just 150 initially.
Yeah. Then it felt like just hours later, that number suddenly jumps to 1,200 acres. And then 6ABC Philadelphia came in reporting a really staggering 8,500 acres.
Yeah, 8,500. It more than doubled in size, incredibly fast.
This kind of exponential growth in a wildfire, what does that actually tell us?
Well, that speed really points to the dynamics of fire behavior. It's that classic fire triangle, right? Heat, fuel, oxygen. So you have the initial heat source, whatever that was.
It's still unknown at this stage.
Exactly. And it hit very, very dry fuel, the forest underbrush. Then the wind, which we'll get into, acts like a bellows, basically. More oxygen spreading heat to new fuel. It becomes this chain reaction. The fire just generates its own momentum. That's how you get that dramatic growth.
And you could see the struggle to contain it in those early numbers. FOX5's first report mentioned, I think, 5% containment.
5% early on.
But then ABC7NY reported it dropped back to 0%. The fire was just moving too fast. Later, 6ABC said it was maybe back up to 10%.
Yeah, that fluctuation really shows the challenge. It's not a straight line containing a wildfire. Wind shifts, the fuel, the fire itself changes things. Those numbers show firefighters constantly reacting, adapting to a threat that was just, evolving by the minute.
And that rapid spread, well, you can imagine the immediate hit on people living nearby. Mandatory evacuation orders went out. Ocean Township, Barnegat Township.
Yeah, and 6ABC put a number on it, around 3,000 residents displaced.
3,000 people. That's a lot of lives just turned upside down very, very quickly.
Absolutely. And evacuations like that, they cause ripples, right? It's not just the anxiety of leaving your home, it's the logistics. Where do people go?
The reports mentioned shelters, one at Southern Regional High School in Manahawkin.
Right, and that one took pets, which is huge for a lot of people.
Really important, yeah. And another shelter at Manchester Township High School.
You get a real feel for the urgency and just how personal it was from some of the accounts 6ABC shared. People talking about smelling that thick smoke, seeing ash actually falling down.
Then getting that knock on the door, authorities saying, you need to leave now. Someone in Cornerstone mentioned the smoke and ash were right there, right up against their property near the woods.
Wow, close call.
Yeah. And another person described just gridlock. Bumper-to-bumper traffic, everyone trying to get out, Route 9 totally backed up.
Those firsthand stories really bring it home, don't they? It's not just numbers. It's the disruption, the fear, the uncertainty for families. And then there were the wider impacts, too, like the power outages. Jersey Central Power and Light reported thousands without power.
And the road closures just made everything harder. The Garden State Parkway shut down both ways.
Right, between Barnegat and Lacey roads. 6ABC clarified the specific exits later, 74 south to 63 north.
Yeah.
A big stretch.
Yeah, a major artery closed. And not just the Parkway, local roads, too, like Main Street and Lacey Township, all contributing to that awful traffic people were stuck in.
And then there's the threat to homes, to structures. That's always a critical worry. ABC7NY first said maybe a dozen structures were at risk.
Okay, a dozen.
Then it climbed to 16. But later, 6ABC reported an incredible 1,300 structures threatened.
1,300? That's a massive jump.
It really is. It just underscores, again, that speed and intensity we were talking about.
Man, you can only imagine the fear. People feeling so helpless. We even heard reports, residents trying to do something themselves, using garden hoses to wet down their property.
Desperate measures. Trying to protect what they have.
Yeah. But amidst all that worry, there were these little glimmers, too, like an alpaca farm that was okay. And efforts to rescue horses in the area just reminds you it affects animals, too.
It's often those specific details, isn't it? They paint a much fuller picture than just the acreage, the individual stories, the resilience.
Okay, so let's dig into why this brush fire likely exploded like it did. The weather. All the reports pointed straight at the weather conditions.
Hey.
Nick Gregory over at FOX5 detailed the wind started southwest, shifted west, averaging maybe 8 to 15 miles per hour.
Which is breezy, but...
But the gusts earlier in the day hit 20, even 25 miles per hour.
Ah, okay. That's significant.
Yeah. Even though things apparently calmed down a bit later in the evening, those earlier gusts must have really pushed the fire along at the start.
Absolutely. Wind is, well, it's usually the primary driver. It pushes the flames onto new fuel, obviously, but it also feeds the fire oxygen, makes it burn hotter, more intensely, and it can throw embers, way ahead of the main fire front, starting new spot fires.
But wind needs dry fuel to work with, right?
Exactly. And the reports hammered this point home, the lack of moisture. Both FOS5 and ABC7NY highlighted really low humidity, down around 20–25% in the afternoon when it all kicked off.
20 to 25%, that's really dry.
Extremely dry.
Yeah.
Anything below 30% humidity is generally seen as a big red flag for fire danger.
Mm-hmm.
When the air's that dry, it just sucks the moisture right out of the vegetation, making it super easy to ignite and burn fast.
And adding to that, Adam Joseph at 6ABC brought up the ongoing drought. He mentioned conditions have been dry since last fall, basically, so the forest floor itself was really parched.
Right, that long-term dryness sets the stage.
He did note they'd had about 5 inches of rain in the past month nearby.
Okay, that sounds like a decent amount.
But, and this is key, only about 0.02 of an inch in the 10 days right before the fire.
Ah, okay. So any moisture from that earlier rain was long gone. It dried out again really fast.
Exactly. Rapid drying. And he also mentioned, the higher sun angle this time of year, plants actively growing, that pulls moisture out too.
So it's like a perfect storm of conditions, unfortunately. You've got the long-term drought making the deep fuels dry. You've got the lack of recent rain making the surface fuels like tinder. You've got that low humidity drying everything further. And then you add the wind to spread it. And, as Nick Gregory noted, no rain in the forecast to help out anytime soon.
Right. The forecast was dry, no immediate relief expected.
A really dangerous combination.
Okay, last piece here. The cause. What actually started it? All the outlets we looked at were clear. Cause is undetermined. Under investigation.
Yeah, that's pretty standard for the early stages. They all agreed it started as a brush fire, but how it started, that takes time to figure out. Investigators have to carefully go over the origin point, look for clues. Right now, the focus is containment and safety, but finding the cause is crucial for, preventing future fires.
Okay, so let's sort of pull this all together from these initial reports. We have a brush fire starting in the Greenwood Forest Wildlife Management Area. It then just explodes, growing incredibly rapidly, more than doubling in size to thousands of acres in just hours.
A really dramatic escalation.
Which forced about 3,000 people out of their homes in Ocean and Barnegat townships, mandatory evacuations, caused power outages, major road closures, Garden State Parkway included, huge disruption, and ultimately reports that over 1,300 structures were threatened.
Yeah, a huge potential impact zone.
And all this played out with gusty winds, whipping things up, and really exceptionally dry conditions.
Made worse by that background drought and the lack of recent rain.
It's just a stark picture of how fast things can spiral. A local event becomes a major crisis, demanding this huge response.
Absolutely. These reports really capture that chaos, that challenge of fighting a fire, moving that fast in those conditions.
It definitely highlights the bravery, the dedication of the firefighters and emergency crews running towards it.
Yeah.
You really sense the ongoing battle in the reporting.
Mm-hmm. And it leaves you with something to think about, doesn't it? We hear more and more about extreme weather, and we see development pushing further into these wildland areas. So what does this mean long-term for fire risk in places like this? What kind of proactive steps, maybe at an individual level or, as communities, might be needed to get ready for and maybe lessen the impact of these intense fires that seem to be happening more often? Something to consider.